All right, all right, all right. I have been in here busting butt, cleaning my room. You can't tell hardly, but at least the floors are clean and vacuumed over here, so that's nice. Uh, Two reasons, really. One is, uh, I really need to get this room cleaned. And two is, somehow I'm missing a miniature that was on my desk. And now I've cleared the desk off completely and looked, and it's not there. No matter where I look, I can't find it. And last night I had a dream about it. Woke up at 3:30 in the morning and came in here and started looking around for the miniature. And still couldn't find it. So, you know. What's up, Daniel Barry? How you doing, bro? Um so and you guys probably already know how I am about when I lose something, it becomes almost the only thing I can think of until I find it. This is just a little Reaper miniature of a sylph. So basically, an elf with butterfly wings. It's not even a big deal, not an expensive miniature. It's not like, my Sanguinius up there that costs like $170 or some shit. It's just a little miniature, but I know exactly where it was. And the fact that it's not there now and I can't find it is literally, hey, well, that is an interesting question you were asking there, my man. Because you have to remember, Mr. Vic, uh, Christmas for me is January. Because that's just how I got it laid out. But technically, I did have a pretty good December 25th. So I guess everyone else Christmas. How about you?
Not too bad. I only asked for like one thing specific, actually two things specifically, and the girlfriend got them for me. One was a torque wrench so I could rebuild an engine, and the other one was a Bluetooth just so I could have some tunes out in the shop when I'm out in the garage building stuff. Little motivation. Don't work
Look at
well
you.
without some tunage.
Manly man out there building cars and stuff.
Well, gotta, beyond my ability to be a dungeon master, a Dungeons and Dragons player, I like to have hobbies.
Right?
I can't fully dedicate myself to one thing.
See, that's cool. I like that. Too many of us get like normies. Too many normies think that all D&D players do is sit around and go that's you know and it's like, we're actual human beings, right? We do we do things. We have families and jobs and stuff. I might be a little bitter about the whole thing because the way I got treated in high school for being a D&D player was not a lot of fun. Which, I mean, in the end, it made me tougher and I got really good at fighting because I was such a small kid, 140 pounds. And unlike my brother, I wasn't a football player. I played baseball. And I was just a greasy, oily little D&D nerd. And so, there were more than a few occasions where somebody wanted to prove they were badass by beating up the nerd.
Well,
and I was the nerd. Of course, a lot of times they left surprised.
Oh yeah,
I've been the nerd up, and the nerd went off on them. But yeah,
I won a number of fights the same way. They called me a nerd, and they didn't realize that I was willing to go toe to toe.
Right. And in high school, in my homeroom class, I was literally the smallest kid. I guess I'm a late bloomer. What happened with me is I joined the Army. Yeah, and between basic and graduating from infantry school, I put on like 40 pounds and grew 6 inches. It
I
was
put on
nuts.
I put on 20 plus when I was in with the basic at Great Mistakes. So
Yeah, great mistakes, Great Lakes.
yeah,
Yeah. Benning here, and it was like showed
but I
up
went
and
in. I went in with no body fat practically. I think they said it was under 3%, and I came out with the same thing, and it was just all muscle I packed on. So you
same
know,
here. I went in and I was like, you could see my ribs. And then the next thing you know, I went from being like 5'9" and 140 pounds to like 6 foot, 180 solid as a brick, It's like, because, but like I always tell people, basic and AIT for me was easy because we just did the same shit I did as a kid in Kentucky anyway.
yeah.
So it's like, oh, we're going on a road march. Well, yeah, we used to hike around the woods all the time anyway. So did you ask your dog where the miniature is located? Right? Um, Hey, Squirrel Hermit, how you doing, homie? Um, I missed your Harn thing. I got to watch it later. I actually just fell asleep. But we did have kind of a mini Christmas because some of the relatives visited that celebrate Christmas in December. So, we did a little bit of that. But our tree and everything's going to be up until January. And we're going to do our Christmas is January. It's an Orthodox thing. You know what I mean? We do Christmas January 8th or January 7th, depending on the year, because we use a different calendar. Easter's different too for us, but it usually works out great for me though, because then I end up literally having like, you know, 3-4 different Christmases because I have family show up and we'll have a Christmas thing, and then week later more family will show up and we'll have another Christmas thing, and then eventually we go to mass and that's actual Christmas. But yeah, I'm gonna have to see, and also we got to remember, I think Double D's on tonight. I think so I'm looking forward to that.
Double D's on. I saw that.
Yeah, he's going to be on tonight, so I want to watch that. And but otherwise, I decided what I'm going to do here with these House Greyjoy warriors is I'm going to do all their bases mud, like the movement tray, and then I'm just going to glue rocks, like these little fine rocks and clusters around it, and paint them to look like rocks, so that it looks like all these guys are like in a muddy, rocky field. Maybe put a couple lichens here and there. But this is for A Song of Ice and Fire, and this is the raiders from Victorian Greyjoy's ship. So, we got a left. Yeah, and then of course I have Stark too, because I might be able to convince my wife to play this game, and I know she would want to play Stark. But probably not a Stark commander. She's probably going to want the Little Bear. Angry Dwarf Games deck. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't wait for that to come out.
Working on it right now. Working on another. I've decided I'm going to work on another 52 curses to go with it.
Nice.
So it would be a bonus if we get past a certain amount. I'm just going to include them inside the packs. It's like, oh great, now I got 200 and some odd curses to throw at you. But I put some descriptions of some stuff up there, Leth. If you go down, you can read some of them.
Nice.
Yeah, there's the page if anybody wants to check out the deck of curses. That's cool. That is very, very cool.
I know somebody I need to send this to.
Send it to your DM.
Actually, I'm gonna give a gift of a deck of this to my DM.
Well,
Oh, great. Make sure you pull out all the cards that you don't want done there left.
I was gonna say that's brave, left. That's real brave.
Oh, I'm just crazy. That's all it is.
You're like, hey DM, have this deck that you can screw me over with.
Well, I printed out I got a full box of them right here to test on my people. So when I get to that point, I'm just gonna put out the box and just say, here you go, pick some cards. No looking now. You got to hand it back to me so I can tell you what happens to you.
But
I'll
as
be
far
called
as
a
Christmas
bastard.
gifts went, I got board games mostly. I got the can for Uno. I got the game Stratego, which, believe it or not, I've wanted to get a copy of forever. I remember having a lot of fun with that game as a kid.
I never played it, weirdly enough.
It's kind of like a memory game / war game, because it's like you have different units from private up and they're numbered. And you can put them however you want, and you got to hide your flag somewhere amongst them. And then what ends up happening is if your opponent moves their figures and captures your flag, you lose. So when you flip 2 soldiers around, you compare the number, and whoever's got the highest number wins, right? Mm-hmm. But then they flip their soldier back around. And if your memory sucks, then you may not remember who's who and where's where, you know? So that and this. My wife bought me this thinking it was just a box of miniatures, and it's actually a game.
Huh.
It's Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. Cooperative survival game.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, and on the back, you've got the different Colonial Marines you can play, and Ripley and Newt. And then you get a shit ton of the alien warriors too.
Well, then now you got more stuff to paint, James.
Yeah, I know. Of course, I know the guy I'd want to play. Hudson. Or Hicks. The Hicks figure's got his 12-gauge pump shotgun out. You know, for close encounters. You got Vasquez.
To be fair, I don't think I'd want to be close to an alien while I'm trying to kill it.
Yeah, well, this is basically the Alien movie, the second one.
Yeah.
But it's split into like 12 different missions. And it
doesn't the alien have like acid blood though? And...
Yeah, they got acid blood. Hicks finds out about that when he's trying to climb into the APC, and he shoots the alien in the mouth with the shotgun, and the blood hits him. Yeah. And they have to strip his armor off because it's off grid. What is up, homie?
Oh, hey, James. Here's one you gotta get for your brother's or for your sister-in-law. Look at this. Look at this T-shirt.
Truckers see more than doctors do. Yeah. Yeah. Hungar's fiance would love that. Which she's at his house right now, so because I called him before I started this thing, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" He's like, "Hanging out with the wifey, you know, whatever." I was like, "Well, you're not technically married yet, but I get it, you know, whatever. It's all good." I have, and I shouldn't, but I do, a freaking, me being a dumbass, Blood and Plunder Bark.
Huh.
Which is mostly a cargo / fishing ship, but the Spanish would occasionally mount cannons on them, and they called it the Bark Armadillo. And they would use it for a little light pirate hunting. My collection of ships is getting a little crazy. So far, I've got 5 sloops, a carrack, a 6-rate frigate, and a bark.
It just makes me wish that there's more, like, you know, Age of Sail RPGs out there again.
I mean, basically any decent role-playing game could capture that.
I'm not talking about, like, tabletop. I'm talking about video game.
Oh, well, I mean, Sid Meier's Pirates.
I know there was Sid Meier's Pirates, and then there was Uncharted Waters, but
They made Sid Meier's Pirates Part 2, and it was actually pretty good.
Hmm.
The only negative is I hate the layout of the controls, and you can't change them. You can't remap the keyboard. Otherwise, it would be damn near the perfect game, but that one thing makes it a pain. But it's pretty fun. You can sell around. Like one thing that's weird is in Sid Meier's Pirates, the bark has lantine cells.
Hmm.
But in Blood and Plunder, their version of the bark has just a standard rig. But I guess if I ever end up with another bark, just for fun, I'll do lantine cells on it. Because apparently they came both ways. Kind of like the sloop in the Sid Meier's Pirates. The sloop has a top cell and a big square cell, and then the triangular cell in the front and the back. But in Blood and Plunder, they don't have the big square cell. So it's like the rigging is different, even though the periods are the same. And I'm sitting there like, who should I believe? Should I believe the guys that made Blood and Plunder, or should I believe Sid Meier?
maybe you just need to look it up and see, because there's got to be some source out there that would tell you.
Well, the thing is, I've always found Sid Meier's to be very credible when it comes to historical shit. You know what I mean?
I thought that would be more square sales. It'd be easier because of the looms and stuff back in the day to do a square sale. Then they'd have, instead of having to cut and weave them and everything else, it just, they just have the machines or the wooden machines, as they call the looms, to do it easier on a square basis.
Maybe, but there's still times where you'll rather have like triangular sails than
square.
square.
Yeah, lantine cells tend to be better going into the wind.
Yep.
For whatever reason, and there are a couple of selling ships in the game, like a Zebek or it starts with a T, a Tortetta or whatever, which have between 1 and 3 lantine masts.
And then sloops also usually
some of the sloops, yep,
will come with like the triangular sails on.
They've got the lantine
like 1
cells.
to 3.
But I still haven't even opened the box set though. They're sitting right there, still in the shrink wrap, because I'm wanting to finish this project I'm working on now. But as I said, I misplaced a miniature, and that is literally driving me insane. Because it's like, how could it go somewhere? It was right there. So I have like completely cleaned underneath my desk, everywhere. I'm looking at everything for this freaking miniature. Now, what I did do, which is kind of neat, what I did do is I have this 3D printed princess from, I think this was from a Ravenloft thing that I 3D printed. And since I had an extra pair of wings from the Reaper wing set, I just drilled holes in her back and put those wings on her. And I'll paint them all fancy and super colorful.
Is that going to be your wife's next character?
No, she chose to be a Cimmerillian sword mage. So her character will actually have greenish skin and probably blonde hair. But otherwise, it's just a human. Cimmerillians are just humans with green skin. And one thing, though, is all of the playable Cimmerillian stereotypes are mages. Every one. So the sword mage is still, a mage. That's just how the Cimmerillians roll. Mobius. Are you making fun of me for being fat, Mobius? That's not nice. But no, my butt is not so numb that I could sit on a metal figure and not notice. But
that sounds painful.
Yeah. No, it was on a magnetic tray. It itself was on a magnetic base. and now it is nowhere to be found, which means that I may have knocked it down or over somewhere or whatever. But of course, I found these. I forget what I bought a whole bag of these, and they came in like 3 sizes. This is the medium size, but there's some about half this size and some about twice this size. And I have like lots of these, you know, like why I don't know. But another thing my wife got me was this wraith. So that's pretty cool. It's just a Reaper Miniatures wraith. They'll be easy to paint. I'll paint it black. And that'll be that.
All you have to do is just dip it in black paint and you're done.
And also a Silky or Selkie or Kelpie, whatever. It's some kind of water elf.
Yeah, those
like
things.
What
I
is a
remember
water
those
elf?
from Final Fantasy.
Oh,
Yeah.
Lord. Water elf.
Yep,
Oh.
some kind of elf that lives in the water. You meant under the wheels. I'm just messing with you, bro.
Gotta look it up now.
Yeah, Kelpie, I think.
I don't know
Oh,
how
Not a
you pronounce it.
Rusalka, because I've got Rusalka miniatures and they don't look anything like that.
the aquatic elf is named. There was a name for him in here. It's not in the first edition book. Gotta look it up here.
But yeah, the Rusalka I have is just a base that looks like water and a beautiful woman, but from the waist up with long hair covering her naked self. So that's PG, but not, you know, I mean, she's naked, but her hair's covering all the good bits. And, you know, I guess you could throw that on a table and be all like, hey, say versus, you know, charm or whatever. And if you fell, you go jumping into the river and she drowns you. Because, you know, that's what Rastaki do. They do to drown a nation.
I always thought those were sirens.
No, sirens are animal looking. Rusalka,
Oh,
depending on which Slavic myth you talk about, they sometimes are the restless spirits of women who were destined to be married but then died or got drowned or something
I
like
guess
that.
popular media got certain things mixed up and just made it like that.
Sirens are either bird, half woman, usually like a harpy.
Mm.
But yeah. And Rusalka a lot of times will serve another river spirit called a voidinoi, which looks like a cross between an old man, a frog, and a crawdad. Like it's got like a frog face, but like a beard out of seaweed or whatever. And then it's got like, you know, a very aquatic body. And sometimes the Rusalka will serve it. Total Rico. Yeah, you know, now that you welcome to Johnny Cab, right? You're right. They all look like Teslas or freaking Datsun.
The Elon verse.
Yeah. Let's go for that drink, buddy. Yeah. I'll tell you what, that was like the best era of movies, Mobius. Don't get me going. But like that mid-late 80s when Schwarzenegger was making a different action movie like every month. You know, you had like Total Recall, The Running Man, Predator, Commando.
What happened in the 90s? He went from that to like, I think the Christmas movies and the one where he got pregnant.
I don't know. It's like Schwarzenegger's a weird character. It's like on the one hand, he managed to be the governor of a state he can't even pronounce. And on the other hand, he's all like, screw your freedom, get the shot. It's like, no, you silly Austrian bastard. How about niet to that or 9?
How about you go back to your country and leave us
take
alone?
your ass back to Austria then, if you're so hardcore about it. It's so weird when Europeans talk about America, and it's almost like they don't understand that we're not Europe. I was following a thread on Twitter the other day, and some guy from Germany posted, and he's like, imagine living in a country where you could just own an assault rifle, and it had a picture of Rittenhouse. And the next guy to post was from Switzerland. And he said, imagine thinking Americans give an F what you think. I was like, the Europeans are going at it over here, man. Yeah, it's hard to say no when they're backing up a dump truck full of money. That's true. Because Denny was in like the one where he fought the devil, which was played by the same guy who was in The Usual Suspects. I forget that guy's name, but he's a great actor.
Well, James, here's something. Ukraine's doing something I wish we would do here now.
Losing? Horribly?
No.
What?
I'm talking about them actually having like gun clubs and mandatory gun training for kids.
Yeah, that's called conscripting every adult because you're getting your ass whipped, bro.
I know what they're doing it for, but we used to have things like that.
I mean, that's not fun. You don't want that here. When
I'm
the
talking
government
about
starts coming around and being like, hey, you, guess what? You're in the military now. Like,
I'm
what?
not talking about that part. I'm just saying, I think schools should have like gun clubs and having like,
Oh, yeah, that was
gun
like
safety.
one of the first things people were saying is when the war started, the Ukrainian country was like giving anyone who would take one like an AK-47. It's like everyone in the whole country could have AK-47s. And all the people in America on the left were like, yay, Ukraine.
Yay,
and then all the
for
people
us.
on the right were like, so you're saying giving all the citizens fully automatic weapons is a good idea, right? No.
No, no.
No, that's not what we mean. It's like, you said what you said, bro. You said what you said.
I like how they're stupid enough thinking donating a bunch of random guns to them is going to help them.
There's
that
no helping
22 LR rifle is going to really help in the war.
But there's no helping them. The thing is, and this is what
know.
I keep saying, is the only way to help them would definitely lead to World War III.
Oh, God.
And we don't want that. They don't want it. We don't want it. Nobody wants it. No one wins. Even if America went over there right now and landed troops and start doing shit, do you know what happens?
Nukes.
World War III. World War III would suck.
Yes.
Like England would just vanish because those intermediate range missiles the Russians have that fly at like Mach 25, that's a big middle finger for any sort of missile defense you got.
Yep.
So London would just vanish right away. Probably half the cities in Germany. And it would be like, yeah, this sucks. And then we'd start swapping nukes back and forth, and it would suck. So you got to ask yourself, do you let Ukraine get taken down and civilization on the planet continue to exist? Or do you push it enough so that civilization on the planet ceases to exist?
I think there was actually a third option. It may not be possible anymore, but, having the whole peace talks should have happened a long time ago.
Except the British had to get involved with that bullshit and tell them not to do it.
Yeah.
Because Boris Johnson went to Ukraine and told Zelensky, do not sit down for peace talks with Putin. Don't worry, we got you, bro. And Zelensky believed it. That was in 2022. But just this week, the Russian military's captured 2 more settlements. They've got Ukrainians pretty much almost completely encircled at Pokrovsk. It's like the Ukrainian military, I mean, the units they have that are still functional are brave, and they're fighting their asses off, right? But it's like Ukraine has like 1/10 of the population of Russia. And so all that giving them money and keeping this war is doing is getting more Ukrainians killed. We're not doing them any favors.
Yeah.
We're just getting them killed.
I know.
The sooner the war could be over, the sooner there would be less Ukrainians dying. But these freaking war hawks like Lindsey Graham and shit. But that's being political. But it's like we have no business there. We started the war when we started flirting with the idea of letting Ukraine into NATO. It's like, how would you like it if you were a country and the people who are constantly saying you're the worst thing to ever exist started saying they wanted to become allies with your direct neighbor so they could put missile bases directly next to your country?
You don't know how many times I've actually had to make that argument to people. Because they're like, oh, Russia's the evil bad guy here. And I'm like, are they really?
Not this time. I mean, look what we did during the Cuban thing. It's the same situation.
Yeah, no, that was the same exact situation.
It is the same exact situation, but flipped. The Russians wanted to put missiles in Cuba, and we're like, no, we'll destroy the world first. And they backed down. Well, we wanted to put missiles in Ukraine, and the Russians were like, no, we'll destroy the world first. And the Europe and America will back down. I mean, Trump may be the master of the deal. And don't get me wrong, I love Trump, okay, and all that. But I can't see how he makes a deal in this particular situation because he has exactly none of the cards. You know what I mean? It's like the Russians are winning this war so definitively that it's like, what are you going to offer them? They're already winning, and you're not going to go into World War III. So there's nothing you can really do.
See you, Alfred.
It's just awkward. You're right. I've got supper on the table. I'll catch you later. Maybe I'll see Double D's later. He usually starts in about an hour or so. So my homie from freaking one of my favorite northern states, PA. Who doesn't love PA, man? You don't know? There's like 2 or 3 cities in Pennsylvania named after my family, so I feel like I gotta like it.
I can't remember. No, my brother wants to go to Arizona, I think.
Oh God! Well, I mean,
weird.
He could hang out with Razor Fist. That would be fun.
Yeah.
If he likes Razor Fist, he could be like send Razor Fist an email and be like, "Hey, bro, I'm not a weirdo or anything.
I'm not sure, but I think he might have actually. Actually, I think that he might have actually swapped and wants to go to PA now. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Pennsylvania, on the eastern side of Pennsylvania, so where the coal country is, there's a city called McKees Port. There's a McKees Rock, and there's another McKees something town up there. And of course, my family surname is McKee.
Yeah.
So, and then in Kentucky, if you look at the map in eastern Kentucky, you'll find McKee, Kentucky, McKee Road, McKee Hill, McKee Holler, McKee this, McKee that. So apparently when my people come across in 1760 and they went to Kentucky, some of them took a left and hung up towards Pennsylvania. Sig Sputnik, affordable firepower. Let's see. Sputnik International is the other Russian news service other than RT. I don't watch either of them. Actually, I get a lot of my news from Romania and India, some from Turkey, some from Portugal. Where you can actually get news where there's reporters that are actually on the ground in the country, like talking to people. Plus, if you're really whatever, you can go on Instagram. And there are a lot of Ukrainian soldiers that have Instagram stuff, and they're always posting about how pissed off they are, like how they've been on the front for the last 3 years and they can't ever get any supplies. And, their unit started with 100 men and now there's 20 left, and their commanders.
Yeah, well, they also got the problem that they got conscription after 25 years old. They don't have it from 18 to 25. If you're 18 to 25, you're not even forced to go into military over there.
Yeah, that's the thing they're saying, to increase the subscription age. In America, man, I think they were conscripting people during Vietnam that were like 35. You know, I mean,
Well,
look at the age of a lot of the dudes who fought World War II. They were like in their 30s, a lot of them.
you can go up to 40. I
Actually,
think it is.
during World War II, there was actually a
Selective
group that
service.
was older than 30. They had this like group that was mostly comprised of old men.
How you doing? Yeah, that's what I'm
It's-
saying, man. It's like we had our dudes over there between 20 and 40 fighting
They
World War II.
They
And
actually
now,
made this
you
group
know,
of old men just do some experiments, and literally they found out, oh crap, these old men are actually super strong.
I tell you
Like,
what,
even the Marines were so surprised and impressed with this army group that they're like, okay, these people aren't army, they're Marines.
we started claiming them,
Yeah,
saying these are our guys.
yeah, these are our guys.
I will say this: it is a
No,
fact.
no offense versus the Young Bucks, you know.
I
think
was
I'd rather have
never.
25 guys with rifle experience and everything else out in the woods from Kentucky than have 118-year-olds running around with M16s. I think the old guys, 25 guys with 25 years of experience shooting rifles out in the woods and take care of the
Hey,
100 guys pretty quick.
those old guys were so terrifying that the Japanese wouldn't even surrender to them. The Japanese were like, look, we'd rather kill ourselves than surrender.
Somehow everything goes back to World War II.
Sorry.
I think
Rome.
the average age of an American soldier in World War II was in their mid-20s. Yeah, like
Yeah,
26
mostly.
or something.
Yeah, because you had a lot of, they were taking people all the way into their 40s.
I mean, the people who got screwed the worst in World War II were the Russians, really.
Yeah.
They basically had to conscript pretty much anybody. And
To be honest, there were actually some people younger.
Didn't
than
they have
were
like
supposed to.
3/4 of the casualties were just Russian?
Yeah. And 80% of German soldiers that died in World War II died in Russia. So if you think about that, like America, England, the French resistance, all the countries that were fighting Germany were fighting 20% of it because 80% was in the East. You know, it was horrible. I did a lot of research on Stalingrad. There was one battle, the battle for Petrov's house or something like that. And this battle went on for like weeks. And it was basically a really stubborn German commander and an equally stubborn Russian commander fighting over this house, a big block constructed house in Stalingrad. And neither side was willing to ever give it up. And they were literally going like, there were times when the Russians would hold the second floor, but the Germans would hold the first floor, and they'd be fighting back and forth with like entrenching tools and shit. I mean,
The whole battle was
out of
strategically
the-
worthless. It was a matter of pride on both sides.
Yeah, at that point, it was just pride. They were just like, no, we're not giving this shit up. And the other side is like, well, we're not either. And they just, Stalingrad was horrible. They made a movie about it. The Germans made a movie called Stalingrad, and it's terrible because it actually depicts what it was like to be a member of the Wehrmacht in Stalingrad, and pretty much everyone dies. It's like they talk about how it's like at one point in Stalingrad, a German soldier died every 20 seconds, and that went on for months. You know, and
Well, Doc, I think you could talk about this right now.
Oh, I see that. Not
How's
your
your
echo
development going?
asking about the.
The first campaign is beginning on the 19th of January.
Nice.
And as soon as I can scrounge up the money for some ISBNs, it's going to go to print. Probably on drive-through, Amazon, and also Red Room. I want to put it on Red Room. I like them, so I want to.
Those guys are cool.
Yeah, drive-through just because it's kind of a necessity.
Yeah, that's the one. I mean, you know, like I have like 100+ titles on drive-through RPG.
That's where I got
cool.
that. What was it? Baptism by Fire.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's Doc. That's over the course of like 10 years. Because I ended up buying reprints of all the AD&D adventures because I just wanted them. I got reprints of the AD&D core books because I didn't want anyone touching my originals. And so, I mean, if you just think about the number of TSR titles that you could get reprints of, I mean, that could get close to 100, really. When you talk about AD&D's 4 core books and then Dungeoneer and Wilderness, Manual of the Plains, and then Monster Manual 2, Fiend Folio, so that's 10, and that's not even counting the modules.
Yeah, and then second edition had all the
and then second edition hit, and it had some pretty good modules at least.
Yeah.
And the good thing about it was that, hey, I mean, if you played first edition and there was a second edition module you wanted to play, no problem.
Yeah, it was basically the same game.
Yeah, it is the same damn game.
Yeah, there's almost ready. I gotta go. I'll see you.
You gotta take that. Get you later, lad. The only thing that changed is they made THAC0 an official part of the game. And they changed, they made it weaker because they got rid of like assassins and blackguards and all that. And they changed a lot of the level caps for demi-humans. But otherwise, it's pretty much identical. And like I point out to people who like to say, well, THAC0 was second edition, it's like, it's not.
No, it was first.
Open up your DMG first edition and look in the back where it has THAC0. Every monster's THAC0 is listed in the back of that book.
Yeah.
Plus
and all the 2-hit charts by class were based on it. On THAC0.
Yeah. So, plus there's a succubus with their boobies showing.
Yeah. Very important.
And, so
Not Your Echo, I'm going to record it. I'm not going to do it live because I haven't GM'd in like 20 years. And in case I utterly shit the bed, I don't want to do it publicly.
But you don't want to do it. Don't want to pull an Amber Heard. Right.
But I will be recording it, assuming it's not a total disaster. It will go up on my channel. Which, subscribe, you bastards. I have like 12 subscribers.
I'm sure it'll be great. And you weren't here the other day, but Steve Secchi, the guy who wrote Tauslanta, he finally got in touch with me.
Oh, cool. Very cool.
And he CC'd me, but the message wasn't to me. It was to the 3 people who are in charge of distributing the products. And it was like, Dear Geo, Christine, and whatever, why has this guy not got his stuff yet? And then it had like my Kickstarter backer info, like amount paid, blah, blah, blah. So, and then he said to me, I'm taking care of it, because I ordered the Adventures bundle, which is everything. And then I ordered an add-on of a player's handbook because I always like to have at least 2 player's handbook for any game, right? And I got the player's handbook, but I didn't get the Adventures bundle. So I didn't get the monster book or the DM book, even though I got the PDFs for them. So it was really weird, but I mean, that's me. I mean, me and my history with Kickstarters is some freaking Twilight Zone shit. You know what I mean?
A lot of people's are.
It's like
there's that one guy, Bear, goes on about every now and then that like basically ripped everybody off.
Who did?
Who was that?
I forget who it was. It was something he bought. Like it took him forever to get hold of the books, and he basically took the money and ran.
Oh,
forget what game it was.
There's a couple different companies out there. I bought a 3D printer on there. It was supposed to be delivered, never get it. I bugged them for 3-4 years to get that thing, and I never got it. And I think that's the only one I got screwed on Kickstarter.
It's a shame when that happens because it basically screws everybody who tries to use that because it makes everybody like really gun shy about using it after that once that stuff starts happening.
See,
now I do some research into anybody that posts anything, and I don't do anything with anybody that doesn't have 10 successful Kickstarters or something like that. You know what I mean? Or you know what I mean, to see any complaints on their sheets of their former Kickstarters. You know, and I like to get my Kickstarters when I do mine. I pay for them ahead of time so that it's like, okay, I know I've sold, like, Doc, if you bought something or James bought something from me, I'll pay for it ahead of time. So it starts coming right after the Kickstarter ends, and I replace my money back into my account, so I can just go, oh, okay, it's 3 weeks in, it's March instead of April to deliver, and you know, everybody's happy about it. So
all of my problems with Kickstarters don't involve not getting the stuff. It involves like either ordering 3 of the same Kickstarter and not knowing it, or what's going on now, which is they sent me half but not the other half, and that's understandable. You know what I mean? Because let's be honest, it's not like Tauslanta was ever a huge anything. It's just me being eccentric. I like Tauslanta because I'm kind of eccentric, and I like. It's weird too because a lot of the stuff I sold Grognard's bitch about 5e for is just part of Tauslanta. You know, when they're like, oh, 5e is nothing but a bunch of furries. And I'm just sitting here like, don't look at Tauslanta. You know, I mean, because half of the characters in there are some sort of part animal, part something. You know, it's like, and then, oh, I hate tieflings. Well, by all means, do not look at the Tartarin Demon Slayer, which is a playable class. Well, not class, but archetype. That is part demon. But they literally come from the underworld. But when they come to the material world, they spend all their time hunting down demons. And there's another playable archetype called the Tau, kind of like the space commies from 40K. And they look like beautiful women. And they always wear white, and they carry swords, and they wear blindfolds over their eyes, and they have white hair. And the reason they wear blindfolds is they don't have eyeballs.
Ew.
And but because they come from the land of the dead, and their whole goal is to help people who need to die, they can see, like, supernaturally, they can see everything like anyone else could, except they can see invisible, ethereal, astral, like anything near them, they can see it. And that is a playable archetype right off the bat. You can play one of these crazy bitches from the underworld that's literally there looking to help people die. You know? Or instead of Tabaxi, they're called Jacka. Instead of Aarakocra, they're called Griff. You know, and it goes on and on and on. Blind women from Rifts, kind of like that, yeah. Yep. And instead of Goliaths, they're called Thralls. I mean, so I was laughing about it because, I was like, yeah, you know, I've even said this has turned into a bunch of weird furry shit, D&D. And it has. But Tauslanta has always been that way.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just part of the setting. There was,
but here's the difference, James. Well, Tauslanta is Tauslanta. Dungeons and Dragons is Dungeons and Dragons. It has a legacy. Dungeons and Dragons has this legacy from way back, and it was always, you know, and that's why I think a lot of us older guys are like, I don't know about this. Dwarves, half dwarf, half dragons born. You know, that's a sorcerer. That, you know, oh, come on. I mean, you know, the combinations are infinite. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, it's like, come on, everybody knows dwarves can't use magic. Duh.
Yeah, I'm going the exact opposite. There are only humans playable in my game. If you get the monster book, I've broken up to 4 books. It's like got information where you can use the Fae as player characters if you want, but the game basically just, you're a human, deal with it.
But, yeah, I'll tell you what, that's cool. But Vic, I agree with you. My thought, though, is about how 5e did all this stuff, but I agree with you entirely 5e had a legacy of being more Tolkienish, more grounded. You know, it's not super like flying ships everywhere,
It
and
was the classic fantasy.
it's classic fantasy. And Taos Lanta, which came out in the 80s, has always been like over the top, high magic,
And
freaking
that's why Teleslanta, it works for Teleslanta, but it doesn't
right.
work for D&D. I mean, it started out that way. It's going to end that way. It's
Yep.
not, Dungeons and Dragons is a completely different animal,
Yeah. Oh no, I agree. I agree with you 100% on this. I'm right there with you.
And then you're looking at the artwork lately. I've been looking at the artwork for 5e artwork and against AD&D artwork, and I'm like, have you noticed anything? All these creatures, all the creatures have perfect skin, have absolutely perfect everything. Well, you go back and you look at AD&D art, and nobody was perfect. You know what I mean?
The
There's
freaking
nothing
trolls
there.
are covered with like pimples and boils and stuff. It's like that. Well, I watched Double D's like holiday special thing where he was going over the art in the latest 6e book, and it was just shameful.
Oh yeah, it's everybody's like baking cookies and just hanging out. It's like this. Yeah, this is not inspiring.
Yeah, there's no adventure. It's like you open up a book and it's like the scene of a tavern. Everyone's arguing, dancing, eating, doing tavern shit, right? And the only white guy in the whole picture is the waiter. Literally everyone else there is some other thing. And it's just like, look, I'm not trying to make it all about race, but you guys have, if the argument was there were too many white guys in AD&D, you went too far the other way now. To where now there can't be any white guys. It's like, wait a minute. This shit's based on European mythology. And whether they want to believe it or not, Europe's full of white people. It's like, it always has been, that's not something that's ever not been. Regardless of the BBC trying to say that the original Europeans were dark skinned, but blue eyes.
That's crazy. So do you see the shit they're doing? They're pushing it like the Roman Empire.
BBC's the worst, man.
They're the absolute worst.
It's like they hate being British so much that they do everything they can to try not to be British. Like one thing that got me hot is when the BBC put out that thing on Rome.
Oh yeah.
And every slave they showed was a white guy, and all of the high-ranking Roman officers were black guys. Yeah. And it's like the Romans knew what race was. They talked about it a lot. They called half or mixed race people, they called Mauritanians. And then they basically referred to all black Africans as Ethiopians, and then Romans, and then barbarians, which was everyone north of Rome. So they weren't idiots, and there were no black centurions and all that kind of crazy ass shit. I saw, hey, you ever watch what's his name? Andrew Wilson?
Name sounds familiar. I can't place it.
He's a debater. He debates idiots online and on YouTube. Orthodox guy. He's on X too. He was debating this chick, and she's all like talking about some kind of trans shit, right? And she's like, well, I was raised pagan, and in the pagan religion, we really don't think about that. And he's like, oh yeah, what kind of pagan? And she's like, well, like Northern European. He's like, you do know that in the original, like the Germans and stuff from back in those times would burn homosexuals. She's like, what? He's like, yeah, I know you want to believe what you want to believe, but the reality is the ancient Celts and Germans and Scandinavians killed them because they thought it was such an affront to nature, And the Romans wrote a whole lot about it. Like, these guys are savages, They put people in wicker cages and light them on fire and laugh at them and shit, It's like,
we just make them kill each other in the arena and bet on it.
Like, right? Yeah. At least the gladiators got like a shot, put on a good show and you'll live to see another day, right? But like these modern day pagans, they call themselves pagans when they mean Wiccan.
Yeah.
And Wiccan didn't
it's a
even
new
exist
thing.
until the 70s.
Yeah.
These people are not following ancient Germanic religion.
Yeah.
They have no
Any
idea
way,
what it
shape, or
is.
form.
Well, it's about as stupid and crazy as these guys or guys and gals that are supporting the Gaza, the people in Gaza, the Palestinians. And I'm like, you do realize they are, you show up down there and you fly your gay flag parade. They will rather shoot you faster than they shoot the Israelis.
To be fair, they probably won't shoot them. They'll just drag them up a building and chuck them off. I think the Quran, that's the prescription, is to be thrown from a great height so that your body's dashed upon the stones.
And then they stone you when you hit the bottom.
Yeah, I've seen people arguing with them on like YouTube where you got like the gays for Palestine and people are like, have you never read the Quran? Do you know what would happen to you if you went to Palestine? They would kill you. It's like, there's only one country in the Middle East where you can be openly gay and not get chucked off a building. And that's Israel. That's it. No other place. Even in Turkey, they frown upon that shit. And Turkey's supposed to be a secular republic.
That's changing.
But they're not.
The current, I can't remember his name, the current PM there is a crazy fundamentalist.
Erdogan is a fundamentalist.
And he's got his own private army of like jihadi wackaloons.
Well, because he's having dreams of the Ottoman Empire.
Yeah.
But he needs to calm the hell down because Turkey's tried to go to war against Russia a couple times and got their asses whipped. So they need to calm down.
Why they're in NATO is beyond. Why we're in NATO, frankly, is beyond me. Why
the days of the Ottomans are over, homies. Give it up. It ain't coming back.
Well, here's the thing too: is I think with Syria's downfall and Assad running, I think he's probably going to take a little bit of Syria's territory. I really think he is. I think he's going to send his troops down there and say, "Oh, we had to crush it because we don't want this fundamentalist BS on our border and blah blah blah." And I think that's what's going to happen down there.
He's none too nice to the Kurds either.
Oh, Erdogan, yeah. And they've been our biggest allies. Like every war we get into in the Middle East, the Kurds are always right there being like, we love you, America. And we're always like, we're going to fuck you over. You know that, right? And then we do. I mean, excuse my language, but if I was a Kurd, I'd be like, my motto, my national anthem would be, do not trust the Americans. Because you can back them up as much as you want, but when push comes to shove, they're going to let the Turks murder you. It's like everybody's all happy that Syria has fallen. And I'm all like, but who's running Syria now? Do we know? Is it a bunch of good guys or is it a bunch of crazy fundamentalists?
And that's the thing when we keep toppling these secular, more or less secularly run countries in the Middle East because, it's a horrible dictator. And it gets taken over by whack job jihadis. Libya.
I support a no state solution.
Well, you know what's really screwed that up is the Brits. When after World War II, they really screwed that up. They should have, I mean,
the Balfour Treaty when they started just drawing random lines through the desert. And it was like, we don't care what tribes live here, just draw a line.
Well, has the British partition system ever resulted in anything but disaster? Ever?
No, I mean, look at India.
Yeah,
East Pakistan and West Pakistan and Kashmir and all the is like, what are you doing? But But regardless, I'm going to base up these Greyjoys because anyone who knows anything about Game of Thrones should automatically known that I would be playing Greyjoy. We do not sow. We pay the iron price. That's right. I'll tell you what, Euron Greyjoy in this game, he is super powerful, but the negative is you have to put him in a unit, and every time the unit does anything at all, one of the men in the unit has to die. So it's like, he's really powerful, but he's killing your own men while he's doing his shit, It's like there's ways to get around it, but it's like, Personally, I'm going with Victorian or Asha, the daughter of the Kraken, just because I like them best. And I got the Stark starter set and the Stark extra heroes, so I could play Eddard Stark. If I was really evil, I'd pick up the Bolton starter set. Played the Flayed Men, you know? Freaking, what was his name? Ramsay Snow.
Ooh.
that maniac. But in the starter set, you do get Ramsay Snow, but you get Reese Bolton too, so you can at least use Reese Bolton. And the Boltons have one of the most powerful units in the game. They have a cavalry unit that's got like a 2+ save on dice 6. So it's like you better have some super powerful weapons, or you are not hurting those guys. They're just gonna come for you.
Excuse me, I had all this crap in my keyboard.
But
and I just broke my keyboard. Awesome.
I was talking to my mom about it, and she was like, "Can you play the Targaryens?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." And they even have, like, for $20 or something, they even have a unit expansion kit that comes with the dragons. So you can fill the Targaryens with what's her name, Daenerys, and her 3 dragons. So that, I guess some people would like that. But me, I've got my Victory Crew, my Silent Men, which are the men they drown and then bring back to life and then cut their tongues out.
Oh, that sounds lovely.
Well, that's the Greyjoys' religion, is they worship basically Cthulhu. So in order to be part of some of their particular orders, they drown you. And after you are drowned, they pull you up out of the ocean and they resuscitate you. And if you come back to life, then that means you're worthy. If you die, you weren't worthy anyway. But if you come back to life, then if you become a silent man, they cut your tongue out. And that's like a religious order. And then, of course, they run around in combat with great axes, just, cleaving shit. And that's where they get that saying, that which is dead can never die, which is obviously R.R. Martin just stealing from H.P. Lovecraft, even death may die. But that's what they say, because the man died when you drowned him. Then how can he ever die again, really, Which it's easy. Somebody shoots him in the face with a sword, but, that's not how their religion works, though, So, yeah, they're...
mere technicalities.
They are not the good guys. But they are by far not the worst guys. Actually, mostly they're just assholes. It's not even like they're necessarily evil by any definition of evil, but they are definitely assholes. Like when they took over Winterfell and Theon was all like, we need to hold Winterfell. And they're like, nope, we don't hold anything. We raid, we take whatever we ain't nailed down, then we get back on our boats and we leave. That's what we do. And they have left his ass there.
Out of what I'm pulling out of my keyboard.
Yep. They left Theon there, and then Ramsay Bolton caught Theon, and that poor old Theon. What happened to him after that was just tragedy.
That was a bit much.
Yeah. Yeah. I had a meme I used to post. It had a picture of Theon Greyjoy, and it was in front of a bunch of like a sausage that had been sliced up. It was like sausage pieces, so much dollars, and it had like the picture of Theon. It was like, yep. Which is a character you can take in your army if you play the Boltons. Reek, which is what Theon becomes. And his special ability is any enemy units within a certain range of the unit he's in have to take panic tests because he's so terrifying, like to look at. You know what I mean? It's like when you see what they've done, you're all like, ugh. And then a lot of their units from the Dread Fort are really good too. And then Hungar said he wanted to play the Lannisters because he really liked the romantic story in that house. And I was like, you're a weirdo. Cersei and Jamie. Yeah, like, you. What's wrong with you, man? But he was trolling me because that's what he was doing. I think he said if he got into the game, he would do like House Martell. So the people from the south, like Oberon and the Sand Snakes and all that. Not your echo. People who try and tell me Christianity is absolutely mutually exclusive from some reverence and awe at natural phenomenon. Yeah, but there's a difference between being in awe of the creation of God and worshiping an oak tree in the middle of the woods because some hippie in 79 said that it would give you magic powers. There's a huge difference. I mean, you know,
I saw a face on a tree. It's alive.
Right? Weird woods.
Yeah.
Red leaves with faces. So, I mean, I don't think Not Your Echo was trying to say what you're saying. And I would defend the statement like, you know, it's like if modern day people who say my religion is Druidic, and it's like, but we don't know anything about the Druidic religion. We know absolutely nothing. The Romans wiped them out, barely wrote much about them, except to outlaw some of their gods, like Sybil. You know what I mean? So we don't know how they did their rites.
Yeah, that was interesting.
They had no written language.
Yeah, the Romans were pretty tolerant about religions with that one exception.
Yeah. The Romans would pretty much let you worship anyone you wanted, except for Sybil.
None of that shit, though.
They were like, we're not having all that shit. All the child sacrifice and all that. That's not happening. But that was back when the Romans were still like a republic and still somewhat upstanding, you know, before they got really, really corrupt. So.
Okay, I got to go eat. I will catch you guys later. Want to check in?
Well, if I don't see you here, I'm sure I'll see you at Double D chatting.
Oh, he's on later? Okay, I'll catch you.
Yeah, he should be on in not too long, which means I'll be dumping out of here to go watch him and get back to cleaning. I'm just taking a break from all the cleaning and organizing and looking for that one character, which I still haven't found and probably never will, because that's the way life goes. Yeah, like, can you imagine if somebody walked up to you and said that they were a pagan and you're like, what kind of pagan? They're like, Slavic pagan. It's like, really? So you worship Chernobog, the god of darkness, and Belobog, the god of light? Like, you believe Baba Yaga's roaming the forest eating children? I mean, what are you talking about?
Here's what I want. I want to see their holy books. I want to be able to read this stuff and see, you know, turn the book over, you look at it based on the writings of blah, 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 and you look it up and it's some sci-fi author or fantasy author from the 50s or something, you know, sort of like Scientology and L. Ron Hubbard or what.
Well, because L. Ron Hubbard realized you made a lot more money writing religious books than sci-fi.
Oh, I know.
I mean, he wasn't wrong. I mean, not that I'm trying to say he was right, but he wasn't wrong. He did make a lot more money coming up with that Xeno story than he ever did with his Battlefield Earth or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it's crazy. But for better or worse, back in the 90s, because of the whole vampire goth scene I ran into, I interacted quite frequently with a lot of Wiccans and stuff. And I mean, mostly they were just goofballs and they were nice enough people. And the chicks were, you know, some of them very, very attractive. So, you know, and they probably outgrew it, honestly. Like, I dated one of them that claimed to be Wiccan and like read tarot cards and stuff. And, you know, she was hot. She joined the Navy though.
Mm-hmm.
And I think she got over it. But you know how it is when you're like young and everyone wants to rebel.
Everybody has a rebel stage. Everybody. I
Yeah.
mean, it's either you have your rebel stage when you're young, you're 18, 19, 20, right in there, or you have it in your midlife crisis stage. It's like I really didn't have a midlife crisis stage. I had a ex-wife that was a total bitch, far as I'm concerned, and I got rid of her. And I was like, okay, you know.
See, I'm an optimist. I'm on number 3. Your boy
Well,
don't quit.
I was 1 and I'm done.
See?
I mean, if I get married again, it's gonna. Let's put it this way: she better bring something to the table, and I mean, not just her and her broken down car and 4 tubs of clothing and blah 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 blah. You know what I mean? I mean, she better actually bring something to the table, because it always seems like every time I end up with a woman, I'm supporting them. You know what I mean? So.
Well, I can honestly say that is not my situation.
Well, your wife sounds like she was the whole package when you met her. So
Yeah, she played role-playing games. She loved to play the Shadowrun video game on like Sony PlayStation, I think it was. She's very, very like 10 times more educated than I am, which wouldn't be hard, honestly. But, she's got multiple degrees. She's got a good head on her shoulders. She never buys anything unless it's on sale or buy one, get one. And I think she makes a lot more than me, too. But I don't ever get into her finances. Like, when it comes time to pay bills, we just pay bills, So
I never asked my girlfriend to look in her checkbook either. I'm just like, I don't care.
right.
It's like, go away. I don't care.
So yeah, I lucked out. But it's because, like I said, I'm an optimist.
But there's book smart and there's street smart, and then there's a combination thereof. You know what I mean? And I think I'd rather have a woman that's a little more street smart.
Well, I'll tell you what.
To check your oil.
She knows all that. And also, some people may be surprised to hear this. I married a Yankee. I know.
Guess what?
She's from Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's where her family moved to, Chicago, from, she's mostly Danish and Norwegian. But yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah. So she's your typical, well, like when I got my DNA done, it's like every bit of my genetics comes from the Baltic area. Like not even into France. Forget France. That's too far south for me. It's like the coast of the Baltic all the way over. That's me. Norway, Sweden, Denmark, Germany, Poland, just except not Finland though, for some reason. Which is whatever. I mean, Finns are cool, I guess. I don't know. But let's see. Not your echo. People who trying to. Oh, okay. That's the same thing. You guys are being quiet. What time is it? Let's make sure that.
It is. Your time is almost 5:45 there.
Yep, it's 5:45, so it's not time for Double D yet.
Well, that Double D was coming on at 7.
Yeah. You guys are being quiet. Somebody out there say something. Or I'm just going to start talking about Song of Ice and Fire again.
Okay, so here's a question for you. And I got in an argument about this, about re-immigration or whatever you want to call it, deporting illegals. People are arguing that our prices of our fruit and vegetables and this and that's going to go up, and I'm like, do you realize how much we import from Mexico and overseas? the supply line's already there. You know, there's not going to be like a big change in that. You know what I'm saying?
Well, pretty much any time of the year that you can't grow vegetables or whatever you want in California, you can in Chile, because they're on the exact opposite growing seasons. You know what I mean? And so a lot of times when you go into a store and you buy a bag of cherries or something, it's from Chile.
Mm-hmm.
But here's what bothers me about that argument is that it's like, so what you're saying is you're perfectly okay with importing a bunch of low education people to pick strawberries for minimum wage because it makes, as like, why don't we just bring slavery back? Also, it misses the point that a lot of farming is industrial now with like giant combines and,
oh, I know,
you know, like the days of like a bunch of hardworking Mexicans out in the field picking string beans, that don't happen.
Well, it's going to go away.
Happen.
It's all going to go away with the advent with the faster and faster computer power. They're going to have arms on these combines and everything else that they're going to be able to send them through the field like little robots, and they're just going to be doing it for you. You know what I mean? It's like it's just going to do all that stuff.
Well, that's how they do. Have you ever seen how they harvest almonds?
Oh yeah, they stick a net around the goddamn thing. The machine goes in
and
there.
The machine grabs it, shakes the shit out of it, and
then it falls all into a net. Then it feeds it into a hopper. You know what I mean?
And when they harvest wheat or corn or any of that, it's a giant ass combine.
Yep,
it's rolling through. You know, so yeah, this. You know, these people who make the argument, it's like that argument that you only hear from wealthy, liberal white women. Like, if you get rid of all the immigrants, who's going to clean your toilets? It's like, well, I clean my own toilet, first off. But secondly, that reflects so horribly on you because you assume all these people can do is scrub your toilet. It's like, if you want slaves, just be honest about it. Because it seems like that's what they're actually saying. We want slaves.
Right. Well, and the thing is that what's the matter with your 2 feet? What's the matter with your hands? What's the matter with your brain? You can go out to the grocery store and shop for yourself. You can go clean your toilet. You can go out there and fill your car up with gasoline. I mean, this is not all beyond you. You know what I mean?
You can learn to do an oil change. It's not that fucking hard, it turns out.
Oh, I know.
You know, it's just like I used to always do my own. When I had my Saturn SR2, I just roll that thing up on the freaking lifts and get underneath it. Get under there with a 1/4 inch, drain it out, put the new stuff in. Well, run a quart through just to flush it, then put the bolt in, fill it up.
Well,
no
I mean,
problem. You know,
I teach my kids, all my boys, how to get underneath their car and change their oil. It's just like, this is a no-brainer. Just, I mean, it isn't that hard. And, I mean, but I know educated guys that went to Boston and Harvard and Yale. And I mean, you give them a hammer and they look at it like it's some foreign object from a planet far, far away.
I think that there is amongst some sectors the idea that doing labor is somehow shameful. But the reality is, my whole life, I've worked in jobs that you would call hard labor, either when I worked in underground utilities or as a firefighter or whatever. It was labor intensive. And I'm not ashamed of a bit of it. You know what I mean? But some people feel like if they got to swing a hammer or something, it's beneath them. And it's like, dude, if you're a good carpenter down here, you can get paid like $30 an hour or some shit. If you're a plumber, forget about it.
If you know how to turn a wrench, you're going to get good money no matter what. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Get a job at a car shop making a killing. Just, But for some reason, everyone wants to be a graphics designer or some shit like that, or a YouTube personality. And it's like, no, dude, go out and get a trade, become something useful in society. And I went to school. Yeah, Jeff, we all learned to clean toilets at Fort Benning.
Yeah. Well, I got a kid. I got a kid right now that wants to be a rock star, singer, make music and stuff. And I looked at him and I've told him over and over and over again, the odds of you doing this are less than becoming an NFL player. And you ain't got no chance of being an NFL player, or a hockey player, a basketball player, or any of this stuff. I said, you're going to have to get a regular job and do something. You know what I mean? It's just the odds of this happening are exponentially bad.
Well, the
You know
thing
what I mean?
is, though, even if he wants to be a rock star,
Mm-hmm.
he could be like the Outcast, who, even though they managed to be rock stars, it was like the secondary thing for them. Like every member of the band Outcast has like a doctorate in some hard science.
Right.
Like the lead singer of Outcast has a degree in like microbiology or some shit like that. It's like they never expected the band to take off. They always thought
it was always a
hot.
side gig. Every good band, they had side gigs. Most of those people had side gigs. Some of those guys were MIT grads and stuff like that. Wasn't it weird? Al has like 2 degrees or something like that, and he's got something like that, 2 degrees, and he's
Weird Al is like crazy smart,
right?
Like really smart guy. But another one is, I think it was the lead singer of Men at Work was a test pilot. Like, and one of them was like a college professor of physics or some shit. It was like, these dudes were, it was like, and then if you look at the band Garbage, all 3 of the band, except for the lead singer, were like successful music producers. And one day they all got together and they said, we've been producing all these other bands. What if we wrote a couple songs ourselves? Right. And they hired Shirley Manson or whatever her name is to sing. And it was like, okay, So the band Garbage was literally their side hustle. They already had a job. They just decided to do that.
Right. You know what I'm saying? It's just that, I mean,
there are a lot of rock singers out there that have like degrees that you don't even know about, because they're all like, yeah, I'm a rock singer, but I'm still going to college, I'm still going to finish this, and if this don't work out, I'll just
well, you got Brian May, who's got he's got an astrophysics, he's a lead guitarist of Queen. I mean, she's crimey, you know what I mean? There's a lot of these guys that are that have had that kind of stuff. So
any one of the members of Rush could have been a college professor.
Oh, I know.
They were all like professionally trained musicians from Juilliard. It's like, there's a lot of guys like that. Yeah, smart people always got a backup plan. Reason Australian musicians, humble roots, men at work, get an apprenticeship at journeyman job. If all else fails, The Apprentice by Kevin Bloody Wilson makes a good folk tune, right? Oh, I love Men at Work, though. Like, when they first come out, I was just like blown away. Their first album, Men at Work, that's one of those albums that I can put it on, hit play, and listen to beginning to end and not feel like I need to skip anything. Just the whole album's good. The second one's really good.
I'm trying to remember the band, and it's the guy, the founder, the lead guy of what is the name of this band here? Boston. He's got degrees from MIT, for Christ's sake. You know what I mean?
Did you know that Toto, in addition to doing Africa and Hold On and all that, they were the studio band for Michael Jackson's Thriller album?
Yeah, I knew that.
I didn't know that. Hungar's like, hey, because we were talking about, and my wife was like, I don't like that song. Did they ever do any other songs? And I was like, Toto? Yeah. And then Hungar's like, and they were also the studio band for Michael Jackson. I was like, were they? He's like, yeah, look it up. They did all the music for Thriller. That was all Toto. I was like, okay. I will tell you this, though. When I was a little kid, because of them, I desperately wanted to go to Africa. I don't know what I was going to do once I got there, but boy, I wanted to go in the worst sort of way. I guess wander around until a lion ate me or something. I don't know.
I'm trying to tell my kid, you know what? Go get your education first. Get some jobs that actually mean something, and you know, and find your career, and then you can work on this other stuff on the side. And if you become famous, hey, great. You know what I mean? But don't think you're just going to jump right into it because your old man doesn't have $1 million to support you until you can. You know what I mean? I mean, I didn't win the lottery or anything. So
all these guys that, like Bon Jovi, working down on the docks all week, but then going to the hole in the wall bar to play until they finally got on. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Those guys were blue collar could be. And then Metallica, they were like 19 playing in people's garages and shit.
Well, I know. But they still had jobs because they couldn't support themselves otherwise,
Right. That's exactly what I'm saying, though. These were normal people with jobs who had a hobby, which was to play music, and they lucked out and they managed to get on with it, but I mean, everyone's not going to be a Jessica Black, whose dad is, an actual music producer. So she gets famous singing Friday, Friday, gotta get down on Friday. Or Taylor Swift, whose dad is also super rich and a music producer.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, she's not even like, she didn't come up the hard way. She had her daddy there to get her singing lessons and studio time and whatever,
It's nepotism via the work. You know what I mean? Workplace nepotism. I mean,
it is.
I got into trucking and all that stuff because my dad was in it. You know what I mean? And his dad was in it. So it just sort of passed down the line. I'm trying to tell my kid, hey, you can go drive a truck and make some money, real good money. I mean, you can get $30 an hour if you want to go drive someone, and that $30 an hour will translate into you getting all the guitars you want, all the drum sets you want, everything else you want, as long as you live frugally enough that you can afford all that stuff. And you go take singing lessons and all that other stuff. So,
the priest at my church is an over-the-road trucker.
Mm-hmm.
He lives down here at Florida. Ivan is his real name, but Father Nectarius. But he lives here in Florida, but during the week, he goes to Chicago because he drives truck for a Russian company that's based in Chicago because there are a shit ton of Russian-owned companies up there. And he spends all week driving long distance, and then he comes back down on Friday. And then Saturday, he leads Vespers. And then Sunday, he does Mass. And then he goes back up. I mean, because Orthodox priests don't get paid. And this guy's got a house, a wife, and like 5 kids.
Got to make money somehow.
He's making some money. I know Hungar used to say he could make 70, 80 grand a year. When he was driving the triangle between Florida, California, and New York. Like, he was doing the serious mileage. Of course, he always made fun of the Swift truck guys. Swift. He's like, those guys, man.
Swing wide, it's a fucking trailer.
Yeah. All the different names they have for him. He's like, they'll really hire anyone with a pulse.
Well, you know what? That's the way it is anymore with trucking. Literally 2 weeks of intensive training behind the wheel, just enough that they can bring them down to the DMV, and then they drive them around a practice course, and they get their CDL in their hand, and it's like, and then you put them out on the road. I was like, oh my god! I can't tell you how many times I've ran into these guys that like, oh yeah, I just got my license 5 years ago, and you don't know how to adjust your brakes, or you don't know how to get underneath the trailer and hammer on your brakes so that you're not stuck. You know what I mean, or something. You know what I mean? It's like, oh my god! It's just like, You look in their truck and it's got an automatic transmission. You're just like, yeah. I've actually told guys I'm not driving that truck if it's got an automatic in it. They're like, why? I don't have any control. That the automatic transmissions are, you don't have control. Meaning, if you're trying to downshift and use the engine,
Yeah, because you can't use that Jake brake to freaking.
Yeah, Jake brakes, and I like all those old-fashioned bells and whistles: the Johnny bar, the Jake brake, and then manual transmission. I like all those old-fashioned things right there. I know how to slow down a truck quick with that stuff. With
I had a CDL, but I didn't have an A. I had a B.
Yeah,
because our big international rescues were air brakes, so you had to have the B to get it. But I drove like Mercedes dump trucks. Of course, you know, our internationals. I drove the Pierce engine, and to drive that, you also have to have the tanker certification because it's got like a 350-gallon tank in the back, and some of the old ones don't have baffled tanks. Oh, so that water will slide you around, man, if you're not.
Oh, it'll slosh the shit out of you.
Yeah. Chomp, chomp. What's up, Shark? Semper Fi, brother. Yeah, I thought about Shark today. I was in Hobby Lobby shopping with my wife because every day after Christmas, she likes to go to Hobby Lobby and buy all of the wrapping paper for the next year at like half off.
Oh God, don't even say that. Don't even say, I don't even want to venture outside for shopping. I got a son that works at Walmart, and I can't imagine what he's going through right now. He's in the electronics department. I bet you he is just getting slammed right now. So,
right.
Well, this doesn't work with my TV. Yes, ma'am, it does work with your TV. Well, what do you mean? You didn't plug it in right. Did you plug it in? I need this cable. Oh God. It's equipped with that cable.
I was walking through Hobby Lobby, and there was a big ass poster, and it was just like a bunch of Marines, like in the dress uniform, like a painting, like, and I thought about Shark. I was like, but no, like I said, one of the things about my wife that makes her such a great wife is, she's very smart about how our money gets spent. Like much smarter than I am about it. So she knows that the day after Christmas, Hobby Lobby sells all the Christmas stuff 50% off. So we go and
I was thinking about hitting my local Menards down here to because I saw a bunch of Christmas trees in the little packs, you know, the blister pack, and it had like 10 or 12 trees in there for like $9 or something like that. I was like, oh, maybe after Christmas I can go down there and buy them at $5 a piece, and then I can have a forest for $50. You know what I mean? I can just
I'll tell you what, Hobby Lobby had them, and they were like 3 inches tall.
Yeah.
Pine trees in a bag, and they were 50% off, and they were regularly $6.99.
Yeah,
because I looked at them, but then I thought I've already got like 100 of these things. So.
But where am I going to put them if I'm going down to Florida? You know, if
right.
I'm moving down there, I don't want to. That's more crap. I don't want to be sending down there. I've already talked to one of my kids. He's like wanting to move out of his mom's house. I'm like, I tell you what, I'll give you all the furniture in my house for X price. You can just take it off my hands. I'll buy new stuff when I get down to Florida, so I don't have to do that. And then he comes back with, "What if can I take over your lease at your place?" I say, "I don't know. Maybe we can find something where we can work that out." You know, so
yeah. When we finally move back up north, I'm going to have to probably get rid of about 3/4 of the stuff I own. It'll be a lot of simplifying.
It's either that or else you have Hungar's wife come down with a trailer and you guys just pack it all inside a semi-trailer and send it all up there.
Yeah. Well, the last year I gave Hungar a stack of role-playing game books. I don't even know how many books it was, but it was 2 stacks and each one was 3 feet tall.
Oh, Jesus.
At least. like the whole back of his Jeep was full of role-playing books from out of my closet. I went out there, or garage. I went out there and I was just like, whatever you want. And he's like, really? I'm like, I am never going to play any of these games. If you think you'll play them. And yeah, so he got a lot of my old Fantasy Flight, Warhammer 40K games like Inquisitor and all that. I will be leaving Florida whenever my wife says that we're leaving Florida, which will be probably when she's done with her work, because she's still, doing that thing, working to retirement. But we are planning either Kentucky or Tennessee.
If I was going to move myself, I would probably move to Tennessee. If it wasn't for Florida, you know what I mean? I'd move to Tennessee somewhere.
She likes Tennessee because, like Florida, there's no state income tax.
Yeah, that's the reason why.
And whereas Kentucky does have a state income tax, it's generally not that much, but still. Now, I can't complain about a state income tax because technically it's constitutional. It's a federal income tax that's unconstitutional.
Oh.
Not that it stopped them from getting it done, but
yeah, and I got into that argument this week too, of the tariffs and income tax nonsense. And I said, well, they're never going to get enough money out of tariffs to do anything. I said, what they need to do is they put a national sales tax in, and just have a
like Neil
national
Bortz
sales
talked
tax.
about.
Put a national sales tax along with a tariff, combine them, get rid of the income tax, and stuff like that. So, I mean,
Well, basically what you're describing is how our country ran for the first 150 years. You know what I mean? There was no income tax. It was just tariffs and fees and whatever, So, and then in the whenever it was 30s or whatever, all of the rich people got together in Georgia and they created the Beast of Jekyll Island. Fractional banking, and every time they print $1, you're already paying interest on it. So it's not even worth $1 when they print it.
Have you followed any of this stuff, James, about the SEC and FINRA and the fines they levy and stuff? They've been ripping off the normal retail investors for years now. And you know what? To non-judicial, they call them non-judicial punishments. The SEC hands out these non-judicial punishments for bad acting. Just give us a few $1 million and we'll forget all about these crimes that you've committed against retail investors, that you marked it short and long, instead of long, you marked it short, and they rip us off continually. And it's just, it's horrible. And I wish they would, the SEC and FINRA and Trump would, actually, I would just wish Trump would go in there and kick their ass first. The bankers and the big bankers and those in the stock market crooks. I wish they'd go after them first.
I'll tell you what, I was kind of heartbroken a little bit when the run on GameStop was happening.
Oh, yeah.
And all of a sudden, the stock market just shut down all trading on it.
Well, you know why that was? Is because
to protect their assholes.
Right. They were gonna, if the price kept running up like it was.
Because they had shorted the company.
Right.
And if the price kept going up, they were going to lose billions.
Oh, more than billions. More than that. I can guarantee you. Well, look at was it Bill, whatever his name is, Archegos? He lost $20 billion betting the wrong way on GameStop.
Right.
20 billion. It's like, no. I mean, I'm in a stock called MMTLP, which is a metamaterials. MMTLP is it's a special dividend. It was supposed to be a special dividend, right? It traded up until 2 years ago, and then just before it was going to run up, they were seeing New York Stock Exchange, the rest of them were seeing prices of $20,000 a share in the pre-market, and they shut it down permanently. They said, nope, we're not paying this, because they shorted the stock. They printed out so many counterfeit shares of it that they knew they were going to get fucked and hard. You know what I mean?
You would
'Cause I
think
was
that
buying
you
the
wouldn't be
stock.
allowed to short, like,
Well,
because
you're
it's
not supposed to.
gambling.
Right.
You borrow a shit ton of money to buy a shit ton of stock, hoping that that stock will decrease so that you
Right.
can sell it or whatever and pay back the debt and make money or whatever.
Right. But I used my hard cash and I bought a whole crap load of shares, and I'm sitting here holding them now 2 years later, and I'm going, I want to get paid. You know what I mean? I want to be, if it went up to $20,000 a share, James,
Like Bitcoin, right?
I would be, yeah, it's Bitcoin money. You know what I mean? I would have been down in Florida 2 years ago. You'd be seeing me probably as your neighbor, probably going, I'm going over to Vic's. So
Shark, I don't doubt it, but politics back in the 1800s and what was different.
yeah.
That was like a time where you could sleep with the president's wife if you didn't mind maybe getting shot for it. That, of course, being Old Hickory,
Yeah.
Andrew Jackson. He killed a lot of men because his wife was a slut. And the whole deal was he loved her. He never left her. And it was like, you could sleep with her while he was out on campaign. Just keep your mouth shut. But if you slept with her and then talked shit about it, one of you had to go. And he apparently took out like 7 dudes with pistols or swords. So, you know, I mean, it was a different time. Those guys didn't get paid to be president. They were farmers, or they owned merchandise or you know, companies or something, you know. It's
Yeah, Joe Biden's a goddamn career politician. Trump isn't. You know what I mean? That's why they hate him. But they hate Trump with a passion, because he's not a career politician, and he sees the corruption, and he's like, I made my money the way I'm supposed to make, or you know, I made money the way I was going to make money beforehand. He didn't even take, you know, he didn't even take his wages when he was president the first time. So come on, you know, I mean,
yeah, he took like $1 because he legally had to.
Yeah, he had to take, and then he donated the rest to, you know, whatever.
I know he donated a shit
mad
ton
about
to the veteran thing, and
right.
like,
And people are mad that he didn't do what they wanted him to do. Well, tough shit. You know what I mean?
Blame Lindsey Graham and freaking Turtle Tim from Kentucky and all that for always being giant rhinos all the damn time. But hey, you know, if they don't go along with the plan this time, the game of finance is rigged. I agree, Jose.
I agree, Jose.
Yep. And the GameStop, the run on GameStop proved it. Because all of a sudden, because I was following on Twitter back then, the guy, what was it? Stock market trading something. His little icons, like a little dude in a suit with blonde hair, you know, like, and he was like telling everybody, buy all the GameStop you can and hold it. Because he had found out that a bunch of big trading companies had shorted it. So he told everybody, buy it all. And GameStop, yeah, they were killing them. And then all of a sudden, all of the trading houses that handled all of the trades decided they would no longer allow anyone to buy or sell GameStop.
Well, that was, you know, when Robinhood stopped their trading on GameStop, they were getting killed. They were getting absolutely murdered. And, you know, there's a thing called payment for order flow, it's called. So all the trades you could do with somebody like Robinhood, TradeStation, Webull, and this and that, go through certain trading houses that are owned by Charles Schwab and Citadel and all these other places. So what happens is that they see these orders coming in, and they start freaking out. It's like, oh shit, you know, here comes this crush of orders that we're having this. All these people are buying this stuff, and there's no market there. You know what I mean? You know, and then the price goes up because people are desperate to keep buying it, and that's why prices go up. And then they find out they're short, which is there's a thing called the market makers exemption, where somebody like GTS is one of the companies that they sit there and they can create shares out of thin air and sell, like James. They can sell James 1,000 shares of GameStop, right? Completely out of thin air, and turn around and watch the price go up or down. And when the price goes down, they buy another 1,000 shares to replace the shares that they borrowed from nobody. And they're supposed to be able to locate those shares, and they don't. They don't care. They're just like, we don't need to do this. We'll just let the stock go up and down. But when a company goes private, like MMTLP did, there's an automatic short squeeze. And that's why I bought the shares of that. And I'm surprised GME, or GameStop, didn't go private. They have enough money that they could have went private and just screwed Wall Street something fierce. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah, they made the run on GameStop and then AMC too.
yeah, and AMC too. I mean, they made a buttload of money. AMC did on that, and they could have started buying the shares back now that it went dropped lower. They could have bought a whole bunch of their shares back and made another run on it, and they could just keep going up and down and up and down. It could have just been some wild swings on that. So
see, I can tell you know a lot more about this than I do.
Yeah.
But I do remember getting interested in the GameStop drama. Mm-hmm. And I do remember reading a little bit about it. And then when basically the man stepped in and decided that he was going to screw over the common people who were, getting involved. And I was just like, how is this legal? It's like you've got all these big companies and trade groups.
Well, here it is.
All of a sudden, they're going to tell some guy like me that I can't invest anymore because
here's the problem, James. The SEC is nothing but a breeding ground for attorneys and stuff like that to get their first job for these guys that get out of college. They go work for the SEC and this and that, and then guess who would go recruits them? Companies like Citadel, GTS, all the big banks. They go harvesting guys at the SEC because they have connections, and then they give them these 6-figure jobs outside of government. And guess what? They get to go work for GTS for $1 million a year, or, something close to that. And GTS doesn't give a crap because they're ripping off everybody else to give you the money. And then when they get caught doing the crime, they negotiate a non-judicial settlement so that nobody else gets charged for it. And it's against the company, not them personally.
So it's basically the same thing as lobbyists.
Right.
Small club and we ain't it. Yeah. You know what, Shark, since you want to talk about President Lincoln, another one of his favorite things was apparently bare knuckle boxing. And from what I read, he was good at it. But I think that was before he became president. He used to be really good at bare knuckle boxing. The other thing I'm going to tell you is this. Illinois being the land of Lincoln, my ass. Abraham Lincoln was born and raised in Kentucky, not very far from where I was. Now, when he got old enough, he did move to Illinois because he could get a job there in education and not be a hillbilly the rest of his whole life. But the fact of the matter is, he was born in Kentucky. That's one of those funny whatevers about the Civil War. The president of the USA and the president of the CSA were both born in Kentucky.
Well,
which was also the 13th star on both flags. Did you know that? Kentucky was the 13th star on the Union banner and the 13th star on the Confederates flag. It's like no one could go back about that shit.
We can go back to this talking about stocks and stuff and realize that FINRA is Financial Industry National Regulatory Aid or Association, right? Guess who runs all those? FINRA, which is a self-regulating organization. Goldman Sachs, they get all these people. Got Goldman Sachs, all the big banks have people at FINRA, and all the trading houses have people from inside of FINRA. You think they're going to actually stab themselves in their own back? You know what I mean? There's nobody there that's a civilian. You know what I mean? That's outside of the banking industry or the finance industry.
Keeping an eye on.
No, hey, you can't do that. You've illegally done something, and they don't. It's not going to happen. It is one of these SROs, those self-regulatory organizations, need to be shut down. They need to be thrown back.
It sounds like the inmates are running the jail.
It is. It's the inmates running the asylum. So I mean, it's crazy because I mean, even if you present work, I mean, James, if you got stock, go look at your stock agreement, and it says you have to go use FINRA for your arbitration if you have a dispute. Then you have to prove fraud to get out of arbitration to fight them in court. But every time somebody brings up the arbitration agreement in court, a federal court, they automatically kick it to arbitration. And in arbitration, it has all these rules that says you cannot request this type of a document from your broker. You cannot, ask for this stuff. And you automatically basically lose every time you go in front of this arbitration board, because the arbitration board is picked by who? FINRA. You know what I mean? It's their lawyers that sit there and are judicial, judge it.
So basically, the criminals are also the judges.
Right.
Yeah. That made me so sad when I realized that, because I guess before Robin Hood did what they did and everything, I was very naive, and I must have, I guess, thought that the stock market was at least fair if you were smart enough. And I just assumed maybe I wasn't smart enough to know how to do things. But the whole GameStop, AMC, and the way that the actual organizations acted, it kind of cured me of my naivety. Because then I was like, wait a minute. How can they do that? That doesn't seem legal. Like, if someone's got stock and they want to sell stock and someone else wants to buy stock, who are these people to say no? How are they, and the more I looked into it, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to tell you, if anybody wants to, this is my opinion about stocks. If you're going to buy stocks, buy yourself a dividend stock. And that's something that pays you every quarter, because it's less likely that one of these big corporations like Goldman Sachs or one of them is going to short the stock, because they don't want to pay those dividends every month. You know what I mean? If let's say you own a stock. I own something called Orchard Capital. It's down in Florida. It pays dividends every month or bi-monthly or every 3 months, and they pay a dividend, and they've got to know everybody that has that stock so they can put it in my account. And it's like, oh, well, you got to pay me every month. I'm not selling ever. So
I, thanks to my wife, really, I invest every year into an IRA.
Yeah.
So that, the main reason is because we're in a tax bracket where we would have to pay the government. But if we both invest into IRAs, then we don't.
Well, I know, but if you're at a certain age, James, you can do, it's called a makeup, and where you can invest like $22,000 a year in an IRA or something like that. And if you're on a retirement, or you're on your retirement, you can take most of that money and just shift it right in there right away and not even worry about it. You know what I mean? It's like, nope, I'm working poor, quote unquote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you shifted it over there. And if you do the tax strategy the same as those billionaires like Jeff Bezos and the rest of them, you can end up paying no tax either. I mean, when I had a big trucking company and I had 25 trucks going down the road, I was lucky to pay $2,000 a year in taxes, because I knew my strategy on where I leased things from my company that I owned and shifted money around and stuff like that. But you know what I mean? It was like, oh, I only paid $2,000 for this, and that's what it was this year. So I mean, it's it's educating yourself on the tax policies of the United States will help you a lot. It'll help everybody. You know what I mean? That's why I say that if we did tariffs and we did a sales tax, you're not getting away with it. You know what I mean? Because a sales tax, you're walking into the 7-Eleven to buy yourself a Coca-Cola. Well, you got to pay 5 more cents per dollar on that. You know what I mean? And it's going directly to the government. There's no way you're getting away with it. You know what I mean?
You made $10,000 selling a bunch of cocaine. Guess what? When you go out and buy whatever you're buying, you're paying taxes.
Right.
You're a prostitute. You're paying taxes.
You're going to the car dealership and you're going to buy a car. Well, guess what? You're not getting away with it. You're paying an extra 5% on that vehicle. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. Way back in the day, I used to listen to Neil Bortz every day. Mm-hmm. And he was a talk radio guy, and he was always talking about the flat tax, sales tax, and how it would work, and how you could give like poor people like certain breaks on it. And so you could still keep it where it wouldn't punish really poor people, but it would, and he was talking about, right now a guy can go out and buy a yacht for millions of dollars and never pay tax on it.
Oh, I know.
But under a flat tax system, he's paying a shit ton of tax, which would be good because
I have a brother-in-law that's in the IRS, or a former brother-in-law. We were sitting around talking one day. We were talking about gift cards and stuff like that. And I said, well, what stops me from going to Walmart and putting $200 on a Visa card every week in cash and one of those prepaid Visa cards? He said, and it has no name on it. It's a gift card. And what's stopping me from doing that? And he goes, nothing. I said, so I can put that gift card in my wallet, fly to Aruba and or the Cayman Islands, walk into the bank with $25,000 on it and automatically transfer that money to a Cayman Islands bank account. He says, yep. And I said, you'll never know about it. We won't have a clue. All we'll know is it's $25,000 left in the United States via the banking system, and it won't even come onto a radar. I was just like, that's good to know. Thanks.
And Shark, from what I understand, Abraham Lincoln was very, very tall and had one hell of a reach on him too. So if you got into the ring with that dude, he had like a 48-inch reach or some shit. He was a tall, skinny dude. And he'd get in there and just freaking, and those skinny dudes, to quote Tyler Durden, they fight till they're burger. So that's one of the guys Tyler Durden in Fight Club said he wanted to fight, Abraham Lincoln. Because he said that'd be a badass fight, And then the other guy said Gandhi. Like, what? Gonna fight Gandhi? That doesn't seem right. But anyway, yeah. I know Sticks, or not Sticks, Razor Fist is not a huge fan of Abraham Lincoln. If you watch Razor Fist's video on Abraham Lincoln, not a fan of him at all. Like, he's all like, he basically says he was a dictator and a horrible human being and all this stuff. And I don't know. I do wish.
Lincoln was 6'4".
Yeah, he's a big guy.
So he had to have some gangly arms.
Yeah, he's a big old dude. I mean, he was used to chopping wood all day, every day. Just, that guy was pretty fit. He's a fit guy. But one thing I will agree with the anti-Lincolnites on is this. It would have been cheaper and better for everyone involved had the federal government just bought all the slaves and freed them, which is exactly what the United Kingdom did. So the slave owners weren't mad because they got reimbursed for the slaves and the slaves were free. So it was all like everybody was happy, and it would have cost half of what the Civil War cost. And it would have ended with a lot less bad blood for a lot less years, because there would have been no Confederacy. There would have been no Civil War. It would have just been like, look, Slavery's illegal now, but we're going to reimburse you. And now you're going to have to start paying people to do these jobs, which is one of the reasons the South could never win the war anyways, because slavery crippled the South. Since who could get jobs? Nobody, because you had slaves doing jobs. So your average guy, freedman in the South, was basically a hillbilly living off of possum or something. Meanwhile, the North was fully industrialized, and they were actually having people do jobs for money and making things, and the South was too busy. I mean, literally, I'm saying slavery was a poison for the South. There was no way for the slavery just doesn't work. I mean, it's just not a good idea. I know it's been going on for a million years, but it ends up effing over the government that embraces it. Eventually, at some point, it screws you over. Always. You know? So yeah, even though I wear my Rebel Battle banner hat sometimes and whatever, and I'm proud of being Southern, I'm definitely not pro-slavery. I mean, screw that. It's just a bad economic idea, you know? Studied at night to become a lawyer. Yep. He was a fist fighter. He became a lawyer. And then, despite the fact that he wasn't the best speaker or the most handsome man ever, he somehow managed to become the first Republican president. But the guy he ran against was like totally weak soy beta male bullshit, you know? So, yeah. Yeah, I got no problem with Abraham Lincoln. If I had a problem with any American president, it'd be FDR. I mean, that guy was basically Stalin. You know, he was like a straight up commie. It was like, screw that guy. But, you know. But of course, if we're talking about founders, my favorite founder, and I visited where he studied to become a lawyer, is Thomas Jefferson. And I've been to the Wythe House in Colonial Williamsburg. And that's where he literally apprenticed under Mr. Wythe, I don't know his first name, to become a lawyer. Of course, this is when the United States was still the Crown Colony. It was the Crown Colony of Virginia. But my wife and I have toured that house. And Thomas Jefferson had slept there and studied to be a lawyer there. Colonial Williamsburg is amazing if you ever get a chance. Yeah, the South, I mean, it's not for lack of fighting. I mean, if you look at stats, one-on-one, the Southern soldier was far superior to the Union soldier. And the KD ratio, if we're talking video games, favors the South drastically. But the South was always going to be poor, unindustrialized, agrarian, and it was because of slavery. The slavery thing had to go. Oh, yeah. The death of Lincoln was the worst thing that could have happened to the South. And no one in their right mind, I know this might be conspiratorial, but no one in their right mind thinks John Wilkes Booth was a Confederate loyalist.
Hey, guys, I got to go. But hey, one of my kids is here, so I'll talk to you guys later. All right?
Okay. I'm getting ready to head out, too, because in a little bit, it'll be time.
All right, James. You have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.
Yeah, you guys can call me a conspiracy theorist, but I think John Wilkes Booth was probably an agent of the Northern industrialists that wanted to come south and basically ransack it. And Abraham Lincoln had put out an order to General Grant not to let any carpetbaggers down south to take advantage of the Southerners. But then Lincoln gets killed. And then these Union carpetbaggers come down and they stir up a lot of bad blood. And the next thing you know, there's hatred between these two parts of the country for like 100 years plus, you know. I think the other thing is Lincoln was super pro, what's it called? Repatriation. Like Lincoln felt like all of the freed slaves should be repatriated back to Liberia or somewhere in Africa. And again, people who like cheap labor didn't like the idea of losing their incredibly cheap labor. So, as usual, guys, at the end of the day, most of the time, it's the industrialists and the bankers that are the bad guys. Not every time. Don't think I'm a Marxist or anything crazy like that, guys. But, you know, like Charles Schwab, I think, whichever investment company, they still exist in the United States, even though we know for a fact that they gave Leon Trotsky shit tons of gold to help overthrow the czar in Russia and establish a communist nation. And yet they're still in our country. You know, you would think that a president or something would have been like, you helped finance the communist revolution, you're out, you're gone, you're going to prison. But nope. Nope. Of course, Leon Trotsky is not his name. It's Lev Bronstein. But for some reason, he went by Leon Trotsky. I guess he felt like it sounded more Russian. But yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's why I get, and I've been called all kinds of horrible names on Twitter about this. When these people start talking reparations, and I'm like, how many Yankees have to die for you to be happy? Because you didn't free yourself, right? Like 400,000 Northern soldiers bled out on a battlefield somewhere so that you could be free. And instead of being grateful to those blue-coated bastards for freeing you, you demand that they pay you. It's like, you know, I see my pops is from New York. He had family that fought for one of the New York regiments, right? On his dad's side, who was Irish. And it's like so many families that were in America back then lost young men in that war. And you got the gall to tell them they owe you money after they died to free you? That is a WTF moment right there, my friends. And to me, it just seems like common sense. It's like, you want reparations, but 400,000 men died for you. And 99% of them were white guys, right? I mean, I like the movie Glory as much as the next guy, but never forget, they all got wiped out. When they tried to attack that sand fort in South Carolina, they were wiped out almost to a damn man. So, I mean, it's a good idea, but they didn't do that great when they fought against hardened Confederates. But, and then the Confederates just snuck away in the middle of the night, and the fort never fell. So, but, and also 5 white regiments got wiped out trying to take that fort too, during the same battle. So, it was a bad situation. But yeah, I will never, like, they could prove if they looked that I had relatives that owned slaves. So if they sent me a bill being like, hey, we know you own slaves, so you got to pay some money or some shit, I'd be super pissed. But at least that would make sense. You know what I mean? But you're going to send some hardcore Yankee from upstate New York a bill after who knows how many of his relatives died back then? That just seems, I don't know, really, really unfair. Yeah, I'm sure I had family on both sides. Like I said, there's a bunch of towns named after my family in Pennsylvania, in the coal country part of Pennsylvania there, in the Alleghenies and all that. Well, I mean, yeah. Plus, Grant didn't care about losing men because he knew he had more. So that was the thing. A lot of the Union commanders were very, very cautious, but Grant knew he had a near endless supply of soldiers. So if he had to sacrifice men to achieve a larger objective, he had no problem with it. Well, he did. That's why he became an alcoholic, but he was willing to do it. Whereas like General McClellan or Burnside, those guys, no, they weren't going to do that. But yeah, when Grant decided, well, we outnumber them by a shit ton, so we're just going to hammer the shit out of them. And that was the end of it, because no matter how good of a commander Lee was, you just can't finesse a guy who has massive numbers and plus a better industry. You just can't. No matter how good your soldiers are, if they're running around barefoot using outdated weaponry and outnumbered 3-1, it's going to go how it's going to go, right? Yeah, slaves cause unemployment. That's what I'm saying, Jose. It's just a bad idea. It causes unemployment. It's a poison to any nation. Any nation that has slavery, it's a poison to. I mean, it's just not good. It's just not good. But anyway, UBI, yeah, the Romans had it. Yeah. In about 15 minutes, Double D should be bringing a show on with Crazy Mouse and crew, Rogan. So I might see you guys chatting in the chat if you go watch it. If you're not doing anything, you might as well. I mean, one thing I'll say is Double D puts on a pretty damn good live stream. I'm a fan. So as far as my homeboys, the first bit of basing is done. So the next bit will just be to put splotches of rocks down and then paint them black and then dry brush them gray so that it looks like they're running over a rocky, muddy area. And the base is already magnetized. So I'll do the base to match the figure bases, or the movement tray, not the base. The movement tray. I'm calling it a base. It's a movement tray. And that away, and of course I didn't invent this. I saw this online. But then that away on the table, it'll look badass, It'll look like super, super cool, which is why we do this, right? We want to, when we play these kind of games, we want to be able to put figures on the table, and we want the people we're playing against to be like, damn, that unit looks super cool, my man. Good job. So this is where we are right now. That's what, okay, this guy popped out. Get back in there. But this is where we are right now. And like I said, I'll throw some grass shrub bits here and there and rock piles and whatever, just to make it look all, like they're running through the mud and the rocks and whatnot. And that is almost 100% done. My first unit of House Greyjoy, which, like I said, this is the crew of the Victory. So Victorian Greyjoys, elite men. If you don't know anything about a game of ice or a Song of Ice and Fire, I don't blame you. I think R.R. Martin's a weirdo, but I am a fan of Greyjoys. And also the Starks, which is the other starter kit I got. Close Quarters, making notes to improve the Sarna wiki. Cool. Yeah, it's Double D's Christmas extravaganza. Can't wait. So I've talked enough. I'll be getting rocks and stuff on this eventually, and I'll talk to you the next time I talk to you. Until then, peace and love to all you guys. I hope you had a wonderful holiday, and check me out next time.